Ah, liebe Festgemeinde, hey! Welcome to the Backpack Hero Introductory course. Here, you'll find out together what needs to go in your backpack, where it belongs, and, of course, how the whole thing actually works. I wish you an interesting and instructive lesson and... Psst, hurry up now. Otherwise you'll be late. And I'll see you later. Hello and welcome to the first part of the Backpack Hero Introductory course. Today we are going to cover the absolute basics of Backpack Hero. Before we get started, let's answer the question, what kind of game is Backpack Hero? Backpack Hero is a single-player roguelike inventory management game with RPG elements. This means that you don't play against human opponents, but against the computer. You try to defeat your opponents in different runs by skillfully putting together and arranging your inventory. Various modifiers, difficulty levels, and characters are available to increase the replay value. Let's take a look at how exactly this works. To do this, we will ignore the story mode, which we will talk about in another video, for now, and plunge into a so-called quick game. The different characters have different game mechanics, which I will explain later on, but they also add to the complexity of the game. So let's choose the standard heroine purse and pick any outfit, as this has no effect on the gameplay. We decide on the standard skin, select the standard mode in the next step, and start our adventure. So here we are, at the start of our adventure. Even though our eyes are immediately drawn to the backpack, items and, above all, Matthew, we'll take care of the less obvious elements first. In the top left-hand corner, we are shown which floor of the dungeon we are on. This is important because a boss fight awaits us on every third floor. After this, we can always choose which path we want to take in the next area. We can also see our current experience points and how many we need for the next level. We can expand our backpack with each level, and the first one will certainly not be long in coming. Lastly, we can find our current gold here, which we can use in stores, forges, events, and also for the use of certain items. Let's take a look at the top right-hand corner next, where the menu is located. There we can take a screenshot, call up the atlas, in which we can look up all items, enemies, status effects, etc., view statistics, save the current run, and call up the options. As this is quite self-explanatory, we won't dwell on it any further and will focus on the button below, which we will use quite often in the course of the game. The button shows either a map or a backpack, depending on what's currently open. We use this to switch back and forth between the map view and the backpack view, and we really need to do this a lot. At the bottom left is our heroine purse and her life meter. As we are just starting out, we still have 40 out of 40 health points. Before we turn our attention to Matthew, let's get to the heart of the game, our backpack and the items in it. Our starting backpack has 3x3, i.e. 9 spaces, in which we can place items. Let's take a look at what we can choose from. The standard starting equipment consists of a wooden sword, a shield, and a meal. Let's just put them all in our backpack before we take a closer look at them. Incidentally, this fits very well here, but if it doesn't work out so well, we can also rotate items by right-clicking. Speaking of right-clicking, by right-clicking on an item, we can view its details via View Card. Let's see what we discover with our wooden sword. At the top right, next to the name of the item, we first see the cost of using the item. Each use costs us exactly 1 energy point, of which we have 3 by default each turn. To the left of the name, we can see which categories the item belongs to. This is especially important for synergies between items. Our sword, for example, is melee and weapon. How unexpected. The most important thing is written in the middle of the card, what the item actually does. Our wooden sword does 7 damage when you use it. Other items may trigger effects every round or when you take damage yourself. At the bottom right of the card, very small, we discover an anvil with a 1 in front of it. This means that you can improve this item once in a forge. Not all items can be improved in the forge, but some can be improved several times. So far, so good. Let's take a look at the shield. This also costs 1 energy point per use, is a shield, somehow logical, and can be improved once in the forge. Instead of doing damage, we receive 7 block for each use. But what exactly does that mean? Hover over the shield symbol and a tooltip pops up immediately. When we receive damage, it is first offset against the block, and only when there is still some left is it applied to our health points. Incidentally, some types of damage, such as poison, ignore block. Block is also reset at the start of each turn. Incidentally, these tooltips can help us enormously to find our way around the world of Backpack Hero, especially at the beginning. Let's move on to our third item. Our meal is a consumable and can therefore not be used indefinitely, but it doesn't cost any energy either. When we use it, the meal gives us 2 energy and is destroyed after the second use. If we have an energy bottleneck, we can use it to help us out. So much for our items. We don't have any synergies now, but we'll get to that in due course. Before we set off, we talk to Matthew briefly by clicking him. Matthew is, like New, Whale and Slay the Spire, an option to start the run in a slightly different way. He gives us 3, or rather 4, options. We can receive a random rare item. We can obtain a relic. As in similar games, relics are items that have special, unique effects. But in Backpack Hero, they also need a place in the backpack. We can get an item set. This means that our starting items disappear and we are offered others that can steer our run in a certain direction. Or we can reject all of this and get going so as not to complicate the whole thing. By clicking on the map, it opens and shows us our options. For Act 1, we can either enter the crypt or the bramble. This is simply a matter of taste and mainly influences the type of enemy we encounter. We decide on the crypt and off we go to Act 1. The intermediate screen also shows us once again that this has 3 levels. Once in the crypt, we immediately look at the map and see some markings. The 3 small plus signs stand for 5 experience points that we can collect. Just enough for a level up. The pink heart heals us for 5 health points. The skull stands for normal enemies that we can defeat and obtain items, experience and gold. Or because we have to get past them. The exclamation mark gives us an idea of which boss is waiting for us on level 3. The somewhat elusive symbol, which may resemble a gemstone, is a chest. We can open it to collect the items it contains. We like the idea of getting the experience, so let's collect it first. As soon as we move to an empty spot, the level up button appears at the top. We don't hesitate for long and allow ourselves to level up. we can add the wild fields to our inventory. At the bottom of the screen, it says that we can select exactly 4. Left click to select and, if necessary, deselect them. Whether we build more squarely or straight in one direction is up to us and depends very much on what we actually have in mind. To start with, it makes sense to expand our backpack more or less evenly, which we do and confirm here. We then take a look at the boss that awaits us at the end of the 3rd level. We are shown a vision reminiscent of a hamster in knight's armor. This is the Ultra Knight. However, we have never encountered him before. This won't help us too much. After all, we don't know what to expect. A small leap in time. We have advanced a little further on the map and are seeing new symbols. Events are hidden behind the question mark. In this case, a frog that gives us mana stones or tries to upgrade one of ours. Incidentally, we can safely view events and can then ignore them, participate in them, and even cancel some of them in between. So it's all pretty safe if we don't want to take any risks. We've already seen the symbol for the stairs down to level 2. Well, do you still have enough energy for the few steps? At the bottom, our map shows a more or less familiar picture with 2 new symbols. The gold coin gives us 5 gold when we get over there. The anvil sends us to the forge, where we have 4 different upgrade options for different types of items. We don't have to choose one. As long as there's money and upgrade slots available, we can upgrade as often as we like. But enough about the map and symbols. Let's turn back time to our first fight. A mouse over shows us that Small Red Wolf and Little Bee are hidden behind the skull symbol. What are we waiting for? Let's go! The enemies are already there, and with them 2 new buttons that are easy to miss. We can use Reorganize to change our backpack for 3 energy. This can be useful if we notice a mistake or if we are offered items in battle. As we only have 3 energy, this means that we have to skip our turn or eat a snack. Underneath it says Scratch. This is our emergency attack if, for whatever reason, we can't attack with more effective weapons. Yes, that happens. However, there are also items that increase scratch damage. This currently does 3 damage and costs 1 energy point. Since we are not interested in that right now, let's take a look at our opponents. Small Red Wolf has 32 of 32 health points and is about to attack us for a whopping 8 damage. Little Bee, on the other hand, has only 16 health points and hits for a whole 9 damage. Or let's say, at least intends to. But Little Bee also has a so-called power. Mouse over on the red head under the health points shows us that the bee is angry and gets 1 rage when you attack it. This applies to every single attack. We will deal with the individual buffs and debuffs at a later stage, but here's a brief summary. For every point of rage, the damage is increased by 1. More rage, more damage. What are we going to do against them? The 2 of them deal a total of 17 damage. Since our shield gives us 7 block per use, we could prevent all the damage by blocking 3 times. However, we can't get rid of any opponents this way for the time being. We could also attack the bee 3 times. 21 damage is enough to take it out of the fight. But that leaves 8 damage, which we take in full. If only we use our dinner and get extra energy for this turn. As we don't intend to carry this item around in our backpack, we do this twice. We use the extra energy to block and attack, so the fight doesn't take as long. Then we end our turn and see how our block intercepts the opponent's attack. The Red Wolf now wants to block and therefore not attack, but we don't let it come to that. We strike 3 times and end the fight with a knockout in round 2. We have gained enough experience in battle to level up again. Let's do that and see what rewards we get. In addition to the 6 gold, that is. We see 7 different items below, of which we can take up to 3. This time we also get a mana stone. So that it doesn't get too much today, we'll cover the topic of mana and magic in more detail in another video. And as it would go beyond the scope of this lesson to talk about all the items, let's limit ourselves to the items that I actually pick. I take the club with me. It only takes up 2 slots in our pack, does a bit more damage, weakens the opponents so that they in turn do less damage, but increases its energy costs with every use for the current turn. I'm packing the Blast Potion, a consumable that gives us a so-called blessing, and you guessed it, we'll cover blessings and curses in another video. After that, we grab a magic wand. It's called My First Wand, can conjure up regeneration and also increases its cost for the current turn, but this time with mana. It only costs 1 by default. Good thing we have a mana stone, which we promptly place next to it, and lo and behold, our stuff is no longer hidden. A little info at this point. Items that are related to magic and mana usually have the conductive property, which means that mana can flow through them. But as I said, more on this in another video. Wow, I think that was quite a lot and quite basic at the same time. But that's what this video should be about. But if you still have a bit of breath left, I'll show you what a backpack can look like a little later. Oh, liebe Festgemeinde, here you are again. Hey, hang in there, you're almost there. In the meantime, I try my best to optimize, but sometimes it's just not that easy, is it? So, keep going, you're doing a great job. So here we are. My backpack is a little fuller and we've just opened a new chest and got some really good items. Now we have to rearrange our backpack and can look forward to a Backpack Hero core mechanic, optimizing our backpack. If you feel like it, let's do a little experiment. I'll briefly tell you what the new items do, then you can pause the video and think about what you take with you and how you arrange it. Then I'll show you how I pack my backpack and explain my thoughts on it. Ready? Let's go. The Sapphire gives adjacent weapons +1 damage, but always floats to the top position in its column. The Ruby gives adjacent weapons +4 damage. The Needler costs 1 energy point per use, does 7 damage, poisons the enemy twice, but does 1 less damage with each use this turn. The Wooden Knife costs 1 energy point and does 5 damage per use. If there's a shield to the right of it, it does 2 more damage. The Dagger can be used once per turn, costs 1 energy, does 8 damage and 2 poison. The Leather Shoes give us 1 block for each row above them at the start of each turn. The Crab Cactus gives us 3 spikes whenever we are attacked. Spikes damage enemies who attack us. The Ice Cream is a relic that allows us to start battles with only 1 energy instead of 3, but each subsequent turn we receive 1 more energy point. The Staff only does 6 damage for 1 energy point, but adds 1 mana to the connected mana network. However, only on the first attack of each turn. The Red Ring uses all adjacent items for free for 1 mana, but deactivates them for the rest of this combat. So, let me start the countdown. If you want to do the exercise, pause the video now. Well, How did you solve it? Let me know in the comments. I'll show you what I've done. My thoughts are as follows. Firstly, I want to buff my weapons as much as possible with the gems, especially the ruby. Secondly, I want to enable the use of mana and magic and establish a coherent mana network. Thirdly, I want to have cactus and ice cream with me, no matter where, at least to sell. And this is what it looks like now. No automatic block, but we got spikes. 2 sources of poison, 12 damage on dagger and knife, 11 on needler. A way to weaken the opponent, and a small mana network with a total of 3 starting mana. Exactly which items you take with you is to a certain extent a matter of taste, but I'll let you in on a little secret. The items I have selected can be arranged objectively better. Can you tell me how? And with this question, which you are of course welcome to answer, I will end today's lesson. I hope you enjoyed it, that you learned something, and that you want to come back for the next lesson. I'd love to read your questions, requests and comments below the video. And until the next lesson, you can of course pass the time with one of my other videos. So, liebe Festgemeinde, see you next time, take care, bye.